right, so we are here with Katrina Howard, and let's go ahead and get into this. Welcome, Katrina Howard. Yay! Now, I am extremely excited to have you here today because this is truly a subject that I am open mentally to learning about. It is one that I never knew anything about because I grew up in a culture that was sugar, 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 fruit snacks,
Mhm.
just jump into it, right? And throughout the years, my body has changed and my body's trying to tell me, I don't like what you're eating. My brain is saying, eat more. My body is like, don't do it. And I sit down with a bloated stomach or feeling sluggish. And I'm like, I got to do something. So I'm ready to learn. Before we jump into that, though, do me a favor. Let the audience members know a little bit about who you are, maybe your journey, just a short little bio of yourself, and then we'll get into a little bit more detailed stuff.
All right, so I am Kat, aka the Juice Icon, and I'm a 40-year-old mother. I homeschool two beautiful boys, and I have had a very interesting journey with chronic pain. So, I was an athlete, I was a dancer, I was a performer, and I also live with scoliosis. I had a spinal fusion when I was just 13 years old. And, I had all of this great life of just activity and performance. And what I didn't know at the time was all of those years of dancing and playing basketball and all of these things were doing damage to my discs. And so in my early 20s, I began to experience chronic pain. And my first pregnancy, I really started to feel different. When my second pregnancy hit, I really understood that there was something going on in my spine. And I didn't really want to pay attention to it, right? Because that's like everybody. If we get an ache or pain, we just continue on like nothing's wrong. And I did this for many years until I went to the doctor and found out that I had a degenerative disease where your disc deteriorate at a rapid pace. And like many other pregnant women, I experienced sciatic nerve pain. I developed bursitis in both of my hips, as well as herniations in my cervical spine and my neck. And so, as a dancer, you don't complain, right? You just continue to go on. And I really didn't want to live like this anymore. I worked, I'd done all of these things, and my pain was just excruciating 24/7, every single moment of the day. And when I turned 40, I said, I can't live like this anymore. The isolation, the depression, the not living a normal life, I had to make a change. And yes, I had experimented with eating healthy. And so I did know that food can definitely heal the body, but it is more than just food. It is your mentality, it is your physical and mental well-being coming together with really, really great eating habits that kind of change your life, your quality of life. And so this led me into juicing, and now my passion and my lifestyle is all about juicing and healthy eating because I have lived through amazing results and saw the benefits firsthand. And now I just want to kind of share that with the world.
There we go, right? So there is the magical word that we hear, juicing. I'm going to say, and I think we talked about this, and I showed you this right at our first conversation where one of my friends sent me something. It was right around the same time they were talking about they were planning on juicing, and I tried it once, but it was and it was at a time where I wasn't ready for it. And I think
Hmm.
that's an important thing also because I was still young and I was like, I'm juicing. What are you talking about? And I tried it. Like, okay, that tastes good, but you want me to do this for how long? So,
Yeah.
you know, mentally, I was ready. But I love the fact of what you're saying that it was a process, right? You tried it and you slowly
Hmm.
went into that. So, if we've got someone here listening and they're sitting there saying, you know what, she just described me. She just, wow, I have those pains. I have that kind of stuff. What would you suggest to someone to try to get them to slowly, you know, acclimate themselves to it? Is there a process you went through researching, anything like that? What would you suggest?
I think the very first thing is you got to attack the mentality, because there's a lot of information that we are flooded with every single day. And so you have to decide, one, that your health is a priority, right? A lot of people try to get into doing something healthy for, oh, I just want to lose weight, or, oh, I want to get into this dress. And it's really not for the reasons that you would, want someone to make a lifestyle change, because this isn't a fad thing. This has been around for, 1,000 years. And so I would say, first, check your mentality. What is your why? Why are you trying to change this? And make sure that that reason is for you and no one else, right? Um, and then I would say, think about the fruits and vegetables that you do enjoy eating, and just throw it in a blender and go. Like, there's no right or wrong way to doing this. There's best practices. For me, like, I just started throwing stuff in a blender, and I didn't even have a great juicer at the time. I was just putting, kale and celery and apple, and I would throw it in my blender, and then I would put it in a strainer and I would hand press it. And that is how I began juicing. Now, obviously, different machines will give you a better quality of it, but it's just the idea is to start. Because if you wait and say, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it next week, you're never going to do it. And I mean, that's how we end up where we are, right? Decades of bad eating and bad habits is because we put things off. And I think you have to decide that your health and your well-being and your quality of life from this day forward is more important than, I don't like kale, or I don't want to eat that, right? I would say start there for sure.
Love that. And it almost represents a little bit of when I do my courses and classes and I teach people how to go live, because I hear it all the time as well. People say, I just don't know what to say. I'm afraid. I'm going to look this way, I'm going to look that way. And I always say, look, it's not about being perfect, just be
Hmm.
productive.
Yes.
Like, just do it. And I always say, just press record, just press live, right? You're
Yep.
going to make mistakes, then rewatch it, learn. Like you said, just throw it in a blender right now.
Yep.
That one tasted a little too something for me. Ooh, I like the taste of that one, right? You're going to learn and process. And it's inspiring me because I went after that conversation. I went and started researching on some juicers, because I learned that there's some specifically for that. And my wife and I, we're going to start ordering and getting that process going. And we're not waiting for the New Year's. People always say, "Oh my goodness, I
Yes.
hate that." Right? New Year's resolution. Why? You're doing what society tells you. You're
Yep.
supposed to start at the new year. How about if you start tomorrow, because you might not make it to the new year?
Exactly.
So, okay.
Exactly.
So now we've got that kind of mentality going. We've researched, we've thrown some in there. We're at that portion of just starting. What other tips, tricks would you kind of, maybe share with someone out there listening? Would you suggest going straight 5 days in a row, maybe 3 days out of the week? Any tips you could share with someone who may be thinking of doing this process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there are many different ways for one person to get into juicing. And I would say, for a beginner, doing a short fast, which is about 1 to 3 days, is a good kind of jump off, because one, you want to be able to do something that you can actually commit to and be successful at. And so, I was just having this conversation with a friend the other day, and I said, if you just do one juice a day, 16 ounces of something fresh, raw, delicious, just do that in the morning on an empty stomach, and do it every day, and see how you feel in 7 days. And I'm like, just do that. But yeah, you can do like a 1 day juice fast where you're literally only consuming liquids for that day. Now, I do have a juice fast challenge that I've been kind of putting out there. And one of the things that makes this successful is it is a short challenge. It's just 3 days, but a lot of people go I can't just have liquids for 3 days. Like I'm gonna be so hungry. Again, that mentality, right? If you tell yourself it's gonna be difficult, if you tell yourself you're gonna crave this and that, well, you've already set yourself up for those things. So we have to think, reprogram our brain, so to speak, for success. And then when you enter into it, you're drinking juices about every 2 hours. And so one, you're not giving yourself a chance to really get hungry, and you're constantly consuming this flood of liquid nutrients. And one of the things too that makes it successful is if you are someone that is, used to consuming high, calories every single day, and you're going into a juice fast, you can always switch over to green smoothies. I did a post about this on my Instagram, and I showed a green smoothie that I was having, and it was literally just kale and green apple with a twist of lime. And you allow yourself to take in that fiber, because when you're doing juicing, you're taking the fiber out, the bulk, the heavy, roughage, you're taking that out. And so you allow that fiber to get in there, which keeps you full longer and kind of, takes away those cravings. And so every 2 hours you're having some type of juice, or you're having, this kale liquid, juice or smoothie. And so you do this every 2 hours, and you cut off about 8 o'clock. And once you get through that first day and you realize it's not as hard as you thought it would be, you're looking forward to the next day. Also, you're going to have this amazing energy. That first day you'll feel different after day one, and you'll want to do more. And then when you see yourself waking up and having more energy the next day, and your stomach, pouches going down, like that's going to be the motivation to keep you going. So 1 to 3 days is perfect for a beginner.
Love it. And I can attest wholeheartedly that the mentality portion of it is probably number one. You have to prep yourself, because when my wife and I started working towards little small goals like that, for an example, for me, it was water. Hated water, but I needed to drink it. So
Hmm.
I got me this little jug, and it had the times on it, and it would tell me by 9 o'clock you should be at this point. It was a line, and then 7 o'clock, you should have drank this much, and that
Hmm.
helped me so much more. And I committed myself to saying I need to do it, I have to do it. And now that's absolutely something I am doing at this point. I'm prepping myself like people who weight lift or something. They're like, I gotta get ready. Oh, oh. And that's me getting ready
Hmm.
for this juicing process. I'm like, oh, I gotta do it. And it's so funny because when I try those, my wife, she's big into the smoothie thing. She puts powder in it and does all that.
Hmm.
She's like, "Here, babe, just drink it." And I'll get it and I hold my nose and I'll drink it. But I do it. I do. I push myself through it, and I'm prepping myself for it. And I absolutely love that. When we spoke before, you shared a story with me, and it was so touching. And I think if you're up to it, I think some people can relate to this. When you were telling me about how some people in your family said to you, you're not hurting as much, you started being active or something and
Hmm.
going out with them. Would you mind sharing that for some listeners who
Yeah,
might be in the same
absolutely.
position?
Well, the thing about chronic pain is we learn to live with it, which is a terrible thing. You get used to feeling terrible. And so the people around you get used to you, acting and performing and behaving a certain way, or not being around, right? Because you're in so much pain, you don't want to be around people and have them just, oh my gosh, are you hurting today? Ah, you look like you're hurting today. And so when I started on this journey, I had been walking with a cane. I had, pretty much isolated myself from everyone. No more family functions, no social things, because I couldn't physically endure. I couldn't even, do a 30-minute car ride. It was excruciating. And so at the beginning of this, I really wanted to begin walking, just walking, because that was a challenge for me. And so, I remember my first time getting back to the park, and I literally went around just one lap. And I was like, okay, I did it. And I was walking so slow, but I pushed myself through the pain to continue. I was changing my, eating habits. I was, drinking my juice. And then I would go to the park more and I would walk a little faster and I would do a few more laps until it became, something where I was walking about 3 miles every day. And I remember my husband telling me after, this has gone on for a couple of months, and he's like, hey, let me ask you a question. I mean, you haven't really been complaining about pain. So, like, how are you feeling? And I was like, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about it because you get so used to the crazy that you don't even recognize that you feel better. And I did. I was sleeping through the night, which was unheard of in 12 years. Um, I was resting. I was able to put on pants and shoes without, falling on the ground. And so I noticed, okay, let me start paying attention to what's going on. And yeah, I did feel great. And then my kids would say stuff like, Mom, you've been hanging out with us more. Like you seem like you're doing so well. You seem so happy. And like that for me was like, that's all I needed to hear. I know I'm on the right track. I know I'm doing the right thing. And I'm never going back to what I was doing before because the people around you, confirm what you're doing. They see it in you. And then it just it made me want to just continue. Like I had missed so much time with my kids behind my ailments. And I didn't realize that they even noticed until they told me that they did. And it was, my heart melted.
Wow. Yeah. That right, that moment, we don't even notice. We get so accustomed, like you said, to living a certain way, in pain. That maybe someone's accustomed to living in what they call poverty or something, right? That
Hmm.
we train ourselves. This is what I'm supposed to be. This
Hmm.
is the way. My generation,
It's
next
life.
generation. Yeah, and we don't have. Wow, that hits. And I say this often in my listeners know I'm very transparent. When I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I'm not perfect, but I work through it. And I always say, what would we do if we weren't taught how to do something? Right? The
Hmm.
people before us, how did they figure out how to make bread, or how did they tried until they figured it out. But
Yep.
society kind of boxes us in and says, take medicine, take medicine. There's the only way to do it, right? That we get so accustomed, well, if the medicine's not working, there's no other way. And
Hmm.
you tried something different and it worked for you. And that's really inspirational. And I absolutely love it. You talked a second ago about your group and your challenge or something. Where if someone is listening and they say, you know what, I think I would like to check that challenge out, or speak to her more, where can they reach out and find you with some of those things?
So you can go to my website, juiceicon.com, JUICEIKON. And I do have the 3-day challenge there. And it's really because this is something that I do myself. Each week I will take about a day or two to just focus on consuming juices and then reintroducing, solid foods through lettuce and, or not lettuce, salads, um, and, healthy vegan meals. And what it does for me is it allows my body to like recharge. And your body needs time. It needs a break from digestion. And so I do this on my own, and I really wanted to offer this in a group setting because you said you were getting into juicing and you're doing this with your wife, and I think it's so important to have a buddy or a friend, someone that you can like say, "Oh my gosh, I'm having the hardest time today," or just share experiences with. And so that's why I created this challenge. Was I wanted to do something that was easy and quick before the holidays crept in and everybody started eating terrible food that tastes delicious. Um, but give people an idea of what a juice fast could look like in a short amount of time. And so if you go on the website, you'll see it there, and you can join. And once someone joins in, they do get access to a community. There are recipes from my ebook that we'll be using throughout that juice fast. I also have some recipes for those kale smoothies that I talked about to keep the hunger pains at bay and the cravings away. But there's just a lot of information, because what people don't know as well about detoxing, because that's essentially what you're going to be doing during the 3 days, is, sometimes people start detoxing, they're like, I feel terrible, because sometimes you might feel worse before you feel better. I mean, you have to think about what has been built up in your cells, what is in your tissues, and your body needs to push all of that out. And so sometimes you might feel headaches, or you might have flu like symptoms. And, how do you push through and remedy that? So I've got information about that in there as well. Um, and it's really just a quick, easy way to get into juicing if you've never done it. There are best practices about how to enter into it, because you don't want to go from eating fast food and eating steak like every day and go right into a juice. You want to prep the body for this process. So we do talk about what you need to do, that 48, 72 hours prior to your fast, what to expect after. And then we also talk about the mindset, because again, it's not just about doing something, but you really got to get to the root of why you're doing it. And we as a people, we have grown accustomed to food and emotions, right? You win the championship game, you go out for pizza, right? Your boyfriend breaks up with you, you eat a cake. And so every emotion is tied to food. And so you got to kind of unlearn some of that and really get to the root of why you consume the things you consume, why you crave the things you crave. And so there's information in there about, like waking up in the morning. How are you feeling? What kind of intentions are you going to set for the day? What kind of cravings are you having? And what is happening around you when you get those cravings? Is someone triggering you? Did you, revert back to bad behavior? And that's when you wanted to go and get, that cake. So there's information in there to help you identify where some of your eating habits come from. And then there is reflection every evening, so that you remember, the wins that you've had for the day. So you're set up to do it all again the next day. And then there's an opportunity for people to think about what they want to do after the 3 days is over. Are you going to change some things in your life? Are you going to make this part of your routine? Um, but it's not just about detoxing from the toxins in our body, but it's almost like detoxing the soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I looked at this and I said, I went to your website and I was just trying to bring it up, and I'm going to see if I can bring it back up here in a second. I pushed it. But I went to the website and I looked at it, and it looks beautiful first off. And I would not have
Thank you.
said that prior, because I would have just looked at the food, because I'm triggered with food. And I tell this story in this book that I'm starting to write, and I spoke to my aunt about it. And I said, I'm going to put that story in there. But I went to visit my aunt once, and we were in Richmond, Virginia. And I was about maybe 12 years old. And I came from the South. So my aunt said, um, I was visiting my cousin. She said, come on in. We're outside playing. Get a snack. Me, I'm thinking peanut butter jelly sandwich. I'm thinking hostess cake, something. So we came in, we sat down, and it's the mentality and training. My cousin sat down and started munching away. I looked at the plate and I asked her, I said, Auntie, what's this? It was a piece of broccoli and something else.
Hmm.
She's like, that's a snack. Snack? What you talk about? I'm used to. So she said, you gonna eat it. My cousin, he was used to it, right? He's in that
Hmm.
environment. He snatched it up. He's ready to go back and play. She said, I said, well, I'm not hungry. She said, no problem. Go back and play. Come back for dinner. She got some other healthy food, but some chicken or whatever else. And then my cousin started eating. She put broccoli and the same thing for lunch that I did not eat on the table. I want that. Well, eat that first. Long story, kind of shorten it down. Didn't eat it. She said, you're not eating anything else until you eat that broccoli. So that's my trauma with broccoli.
You're like,
And
yeah,
recently I went out to eat and I took a picture. I picked up a piece of broccoli and was about putting it in my mouth, and I took a selfie and I sent it to her, right? I was like, look,
I'm
almost
doing
30 something years later, I'm
it.
finally learning. So, but my point is, when I looked at the website, let me see if this comes up now. Nope, still didn't come up. Don't worry, I'm still talking. I looked at your website. I saw the fruits and everything on there. There it is. Okay, so now let me get you up here. So I saw the fruits so you can see this along with me. And here we go. Bam. Oh, no, no. There you go. Okay, so that you can kind of view this with me. So the listeners, you got to go to the site. It's JUICEIKON.com. And for the viewers who are watching this on the YouTube, you can kind of see this. So my first thing I saw was this thick green glass of whatever that is there. And but my point of before year and a half, 2 years ago, I would have looked at that and immediately shut the page off. Right? It
Hmm.
didn't. So mentally, it didn't scare me away because, like you said, I was prepping myself. These are the things I'm going to need to do, and I'm glad you said that. Also about the community and having support, because that's
Hmm.
something we absolutely need. Anyone who
Yep.
tells you I could do this by myself, you probably could, but it might be a little bit harder. So, and as we scroll down, this is kind of what you were talking about your ebook
Hmm.
where you can get the recipes, the 3 day juice fast, sign up there, and then about the juice icon yourself. I love that the icon. I love it. I'm going to sign up for this here today because I'm looking for that support. And
Thank
interestingly
you.
enough, um, you were talking about the prepping yourself, 48, 72 hours, or however long prior to doing it. That part of my research, because I didn't research all, I didn't know about. And I'm glad you said that because it's like when you're about to go into any contest, marathon or playing a game or something, you need to prep and get your
Yeah.
muscles and mind
You
right. So
train.
I absolutely love it. Train your brain, train your muscles. I love it. So, any last parting words that you'd like to share with the listeners out there? Anything you want to share to inspire someone, please take it away and let them know.
So, I'm going to share a story with you and hope that you hear yourself in the story. So, my grandmother passed away in September of 2020, and she had diabetes. She had high blood pressure. She had high cholesterol. Um, it was congestive heart failure that she actually passed away from. And the crazy thing about that is when she was diagnosed with it, you hear you have congestive heart failure. What does that mean? For many years, she was in and out of the hospital. She would go to the hospital, something crazy would happen, and then a few days she would be home. And this went on for years. So when you hear congestive heart failure, you're thinking, someone's about to die like tomorrow. But this was something that went on for many years. And in September of 2020, she went into the hospital, and this time she didn't come out. And so I remember, I had been around other people who had passed away from different, heart disease and things like that in my family. My grandfather had cancer, but there was something about her death at this age that really resonated with me. And it really changed the way that I looked at what we consume, because I had always been the weirdo in my family, eating different, doing different things. And I was okay with that. I'm okay being the weirdo. But something about her death really struck a chord in me. And I had to do something different because I didn't want to see my mother, who also has high blood pressure, high cholesterol. She has diabetes. Like, I don't want to see my mother die from the thing that my grandmother died of. And so I've, tried to help my parents get on this road to juicing. And, she'll send me pictures of the juices that she does for the day. But I really knew that I had to do something different for myself, being super consistent, not just doing something for, this quarter or the summer, but really making it an everyday lifestyle change, because so many people in our community are at risk. And it's not something that's happening later in life. I'm talking 20, 30 kids are getting high cholesterol or putting themselves at a higher risk for, heart disease. And I don't want to see another person that I love be a statistic, right? And so I say to anyone that is listening, whatever your why is, we all wake up some days and we have a little bit aches and pains. And then we get up and we go get that fast food, or we have that martini or that margarita. And I really want you guys to think in the moment, is what I'm putting into my mouth truly setting me up for a better future? Or is it just giving me pleasure in this moment? And really start to think about, before you put something in your mouth, before you swallow, before you consume it, really think about, what is this doing to our future? Because there's already so much that is around us, in the water, in the air, in the food that we consume from the grocery store. There's already so many things that we don't even know is contributing to our ailments and illnesses. But this one thing, you guys, we absolutely have control over. We have control over what we eat. We have control over how healthy we become. When we feel bad, we don't have to take a drug, a prescription. There is a food. Our ancestors did it. They were great. They went into nature. They grew their food. They knew what to do to heal themselves. And we have gotten so disconnected from that we don't know what to do. But that's why I'm here, because I found a way. And wherever you are on your journey, I want to help you. I want to help you have a better quality of life. I want to help you not be a statistic and be around for yourself and the ones that you love the most.
Look, when you started off, the very first thing, I don't. First of all, I don't even have my AC on, and I just got chills. That's number one. All right. So, but when you said I'm speaking to you, I said you're speaking to me because I have diabetes. I have high blood pressure. I have those things. I'm 45, right? And but it was what I knew as growing up. So it's a whole mental mind change for me.
Hmm.
Like coming up, snacks, this, but I'm willing to. And like you said, for all of our people out there listening, we have to be willing to say, I don't want to continue being down that road. And I absolutely love that. And you're offering to help. You got to be willing to take it. Jump on this free challenge. Get in there. Get in the group. Meet people that are like yourselves. Go to Cat's group. Reach out and listen. And I have one more question for you that you weren't ready for. This is like my little lightning round question. It's a little fun thing. But before I do that, I've started kind of a new segment um, on my podcast in which I was reading this little article, and it's called 50 Points Advice from an 80-Year-Old. And I was like, oh, wow, these points are just really short. And I give 1 point out of each episode now. And today's point is, never deprive someone of hope. It might be all that they have. Just because you don't believe in what they believe in, their goals, their dreams, don't deprive them of that hope because you don't believe in it. That might be all that they have. And times are so tough with everything we've been going in, whether you believe in a pandemic or not. Hey, it's been crazy mentally for everyone. So if
Hmm.
we can get positivity somewhere, please do it. And last thing before I ask you your question, just need to let everyone know that this episode is being brought to you by The Hustle 1977. For those who grind, you deserve to relax. Why not relax with a glass of smooth tasting Hustle brand whiskey? Thank you guys. Now, for your last question, Kat, for your last question, what do you want to be remembered by? When you leave this
Oh,
world,
wow.
what do you want to leave? That's just your one question. What do you want to be remembered by?
Um, I would say I would want my legacy to be one of service, service to others, because, you know, you can do a lot of things for money, right? And there's always more money to be made. But I feel like if you wake up and you do something for someone else that impacts their life in a way that you might not even know, you might not get credit for, but you do it not for the accolades, not for people to stand up and clap and, say, oh, you're so great and awesome, but you do it because you know you're making a difference in someone else's life. And so I would want to be remembered as someone who was of service to other people every day, all day, doing something that was bigger than herself, that was not about herself, but that was truly about someone else's life.
There we have it. Thank you so very much. Kat, I want you to hold on for just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and finish up, and then I'm going to be right back with you, okay? Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of J1Q, Just One Question, the place that lets you know that it's okay to be who you are. It's just a safe place to be a little dangerous, right? Be who you are, and the world will see. Thank you all, and until next time, as I always say, keep living while you are living.
Thank you for listening to Just One Question. I know you enjoyed the show because you made it this far. If you want to hear more, subscribe, share, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Now, what's your one question?